how expensive is this process? Like, meaning, like, is it on a per unit basis, like a flat fee? Like, what does this process typically look like in terms of cost?
So pretty much for the architect, you're looking between $15 to $2,000 fee to draw the plan for you. The survey usually going to cost about $1,000 to have the survey of the property, and the lawyer fees will be between $25 to $5,000.
An HOA where I own, they wanted to put a palm tree for $15,000. I'm like, why would you put a palm tree for $15,000? You know, and sometimes the people managing the HOA aren't as sophisticated financially as somebody like me or you. Is there anything that you do that protects you to make sure that the right management is in place, or that people are making wise financial decisions on the HOA management board or anything like that?
So exactly. So if you own obviously more units in the condominiums, you have more voting rights. When you have more voting rights, you can make the decision goes in the way that you think needs to happen.
Hi, everybody. Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome back to another episode of the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. Today we have Ro Dahan. He is a real estate investor / real estate entrepreneur out of New Orleans, Louisiana. I actually found him on TikTok. I saw a very, very interesting TikTok that he did. It was about condominium conversions from apartment complexes, and it was like brilliant the way that he said it. It was basically he bought a 4-unit or a 6-unit, he converted it into condos, then he sold some of the condos and then kept some of the condos for himself, completely paid off the condos that he sold, paid off all the debt. But I'll let him kind of share everything. Welcome to the show. Ro, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me over here.
So for our viewers that don't know who you are, who is Ro Dahan, and how did you get involved in this wonderful world of real estate investing?
So I came to the United States when I was 19 years old. It's the American dream, you know. I came really with no money over here, literally $100 in my pocket. I know a lot of people say it all the time, but it was literally like that. And I started in the service industry. I was a cab driver. And I met my wife when I was 20, and I always was interested in real estate. I always had also the entrepreneurial spirit in me. So I started driving a cab, and then I bought 5 more cabs and rented it. And then, you know, I've seen, okay, so people now can drive for me and pay my rents on my cabs, and I can make extra cash money, cash flow, so without doing anything really. And whatever I do when I work, that's all come to me, and I can invest all that. I really loved this real estate back then, and I saw an infomercial from Carlton Sheets. It was no money down. It was like in the 90s, 1995, I think, or 1996. How to buy real estate with no money down. I bought that real estate course. It was the best, I don't know, $100 that I spent, I think, in my life. And I bought few properties with no money down, literally following what he did. And then I went and got my real estate license. Worked as a real estate agent for 2 years. That was actually before I started buying properties, just to know the market and basically get familiar with my surrounding. And after a year or so, as a real estate agent, one of my agents that worked with me came to me and said, look, I got this deal. If you have any investor want to buy it, it was a 5 units apartment that was donated to a cancer society, and it was empty. And they just wanted to sell it to get the money for the donation that they received. They were asking $90,000 back then. It was in prime location in New Orleans, you know, in Napoleon Avenue. It's like a prime location, Mardi Gras route and all that New Orleans pizzazz that we have over here. And I went and looked at it, and I found out that it had about 2 weeks left for the zoning to change from 5 units to 4 units because it was empty. If it's over 6 months empty, it's going to the original zoning. So I went and bought and put the electricity to my name. I didn't even buy it. I just went and put the electricity to my name. So that way it wasn't showing that it was empty. Somebody got the utilities on his name, so the zoning can stay over there. I offered $70,000 cash. I had no money back then. She accepted my offer, and I'm like, oh, shoot, what am I doing right now? How am I going to get the money to buy that property? And I called my friend in Israel. I said, look, man, I got this good investment property. If you guys put the money, I'll do all the work. We'll split the profit. They wired me the money after 3 days, and we purchased the property, and I flipped it without doing anything to it. It still stayed empty after 3 months for $290,000.
Wow.
That was my first real estate deal. Yes.
It was perfect. Perfect.
And from
Good
there,
for
I just
you.
went and started buying apartments and buying houses and units and did a lot of renovations and all that. So I bought the 16 units apartments that you saw on TikTok. It was 16 units apartments. Also, I got it from a mortgage lender that bought it, got scared, and he knew that I'm doing deals, and he assigned a contract to me. Didn't cost me anything. Got it 100% finance, believe it or not, from the bank. No money down deal. And I said, you know what? There was a trend of condos back then. I said, I can probably convert it to condos. So, and that's what I did. I converted to condos. And I still have 4 units over there today, free and clear. They're bringing me about $1,100 a month. And it's great passive income, you know. I'm not doing really anything as far as the maintenance and all that. There is condo associations over there that everything is being taken care of. They're paying the fees. And that's pretty much it. And I did it on a few properties. I did it on 20 units, and now I'm building 15 luxury condos in downtown New York in the warehouse district.
Love it. I love it. So walk us through this process. Like, I own an apartment complex. If I wanted to convert that apartment complex into individual condos. So just so you know, for our viewers, if you own an apartment complex, you can't sell the individual units individually. However, if you turn them into condominiums, then you can sell each unit individually. And that's what you basically did. So if I wanted to do that, how would I go about that process? What does that look like?
It's not that difficult, actually. So I know in Louisiana, I'm expert in Louisiana. I don't know how it works in different states, but I'm assuming it's going to be similar. Maybe there are going to be some changes in the laws as far as the zoning and all that. But over here, when you have over 4 units, it's actually called over 2 units, R2 and then R3 and commercial zoning. You can actually convert those units into condos. It's in the laws in the state and in each parish over here. Over here we have parishes. So if it's zoned for condominiums, and it's a quick phone call, you can check it through your local city, parish, however you want to call it, and they can tell you, yes, it's doable to do a conversion over there, or it's not. So that's the first thing you need to do. So most apartment complexes can be converted into condos.
I love
the second thing you're going to do, second thing you're going to do is you need to see if it's a little bit broad, but you need to see if the area will support this condominium sales that you want to do, because sometimes you can convert something to condos, but nobody wants to buy condos in that area. So it's not going to be worth it to even do it. Just keep it as an apartment complex. So usually in cities or suburbs that's close to cities that have a nice residential surrounding to it, and not a lot of apartments, will be probably an ideal way to convert something into condos. Something that you can buy and you want to add value to it. So if you bought something for $600 to $1 million, let's say, and you want to flip it fairly quickly, let's say within a year, and you don't want to wait 10 years to make another $500,000 or $1 million on it as a rental, and you don't want to deal with the tenants, that's going to be an add value to you that, okay, what can I sell those individual units with, let's say, a little bit renovations into the units. Usually that's what it needs. Make them new floors, new appliances, sometimes new kitchens, paint and all that. And if you make $50,000 to $100,000 a unit, it's worth it. Because then you have value added up to the complex that you wouldn't receive right away, just because the rents will support the specific price right now, but not in the near future. In the near future, it's going to go up, but you're still not going to have your cash that you want to flip right now. So if somebody wants to do it, that's going to be a perfect situation for them to add it. Once you find that the area is supporting it, go to an architect. It's not expensive. You go and they design basically all the units for you. They draw all the units for you. And they have a set of plans that they prepare. Then you go to any closing attorney pretty much can do it for you. I find out that most closing attorneys will do those kind of process. They have the bylaws that they're going to set up. They're going to have the plans from the architects that you have. They're going to file it with the city. And basically the units start, you basically want to break the units. So let's say if you have 1, 2, 3, Metairie Road, for example. Instead of having 1, 2, 3 Metairie Road, you're going to have 1, 2, 3 Metairie Road, apartment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everybody going to have their own address. Once they have their own address, it's basically filed separately in the city, and you're going to start paying separate taxes for each unit. So when you sell it, they own that particular unit. So they're going to own, if you have 100% from the building, somebody buy a unit, it's going to be, 10% from the 100% he owns. And then the common area will be owned by everybody and shared by everybody. But that's basically the process. It's really not that complicated. You pay a lawyer, you pay an architect, and you get your permits to do a renovation if you need to do renovations,
What are some of the things that the architect usually does in the plans? Or are they what's the purpose of the architect, just out of curiosity? Are they making any modifications? Are they basically splitting up certain backyards? Are they modifying the units in any way, like the water heater, the plumbing, anything like that typically goes on in some of these condo conversions?
So basically what they're doing is, since you're going to have common areas and individual units that they're going to own, they owning everything from the stud in, pretty much, as a condo owner. Mm-hmm. Everything else is a common area. So when they draw the plans, you need to get a survey also, by the way, which the architect will get you the survey as well. So you have the parking. If you have an assigned parking for each unit, that's going to be drawn. But the parking lot will be owned by everybody. So part of your ownership will be that percentage of the common areas as well. That's why you need an architect. Also, the individual units that you're going to record in the public records will have the square footage for each unit, plus it's going to have the square footage for all the common areas. And in individual, but when you make the sale, going to be owning, Don Joe going to own unit number 1, and this is what his ownership is going to look like. And when you give him the condo docs, it's going to be in the condo docs. Unit 1 or unit A, this is your share of this property, and this is what you own. So that's how awesome. You basically break the apartment complex to condominiums. That's basically the whole process.
So basically the architect's basically saying, hey, what's common areas versus what's the areas that each unit owns. How expensive is this process? Meaning is it on a per unit basis, a flat fee? What does this process typically look like in terms of cost?
So again, with my experience in Louisiana, and I know that New York will be more expensive, and probably Florida and California will be more too, expensive. And I see all the comments on TikTok, I'm like, it costs. I say, yeah, I know. I say, I'm in Louisiana. This is what it's going to cost me. So pretty much for the architect, you're looking between $1,500 to $2,000 fee to draw the plans for you, because it's really nothing that they're doing from scratch. They come in and drawing the units, like a real estate agent will come and draw units, basically. The architect will come and do the same thing. The survey usually going to cost about $1,000 to have the survey of the property, and the lawyer fees will be between $2,500 to $5,000. Now, if you do a lot of business with these closing attorneys, and you tell them, look, if I do those sales with you guys, can you give me a break on the fees? So then you can get it cheaper because you're not sending them business. They can get their business from the seller and from the buyer. They can do your contracts as well. So, for example, in my contracts, I always wanted to close with my closing attorneys because they did my contracts, they did my condo docs. If there is any issues, I know, this is the guy that did it for me. Let's go to him and see what's the problem. So I don't go to other title companies and have issues. If there's any issues with those plans that they're not aware of, usually the person that did it can fix what's wrong with it. And it's not going to cost you extra money. So again, it is, with your relationship as a real estate agent, you got your 3 mortgage guys, your 3 title companies, and they usually take care of you. If business coming towards them, they can help you, and they can actually advise you also of what to do and what not to do. So that's what I'm saying. Go to your title attorneys that you used to deal with. They can advise you how to do that process in your state and how to go about it.
How long does the process take in Louisiana from start to finish? I know obviously it's going to vary by state. And I think in California, the process is called a tenants in common, which people call it a TIC, which basically means you're converting an apartment complex into individual condominium units in California. I think that's what it's called.
So yeah, Louisiana got Napoleonic law. That's the only state in the country that have Napoleonic law. Everybody else got common law. So we got different wording over here for everything. But usually if the architect will do what they need to do within the 2-3 weeks, and the survey plan you can get within 2-3 weeks, the title attorney usually have already those condo docs set as a general docs, and you just fill up the blank. So it's nothing new that they doing. Within 4 to 6 weeks, you can finish this whole process over here in Louisiana. It's really not that big of a deal. And you recorded it. You can get an agent to start selling all those units. You can pre-sell them probably also before and move on with it.
Now, I know that, and this is kind of what caught my attention about your video. You said that the one that I saw on TikTok, that one was a 16 unit, right? That's what you said?
16 units, yes.
Yeah. So tell us about that property and kind of like the strategy. Like what I found really interesting was that I think you said you sold like 12 of them and you kept 4 of them. And basically you paid off any debt that was on the building that you used to buy it. And you got to basically keep the 4 units completely for free. So can you kind of walk us, like, can you walk us through that process, like as to like what your thoughts were when you were doing that? Like, how did you underwrite the deal? Like, and why did you decide to go in that direction versus just kind of holding on to it as the entire 16 unit?
Exactly. So when I was younger, I wanted to have cash quickly. I didn't want to wait for my cash to come in and have my appreciation and all that. So the condo conversion was a very nice and very quick way to convert something and have more cash versus just flip it as a whole and make maybe $50,000 to $100,000. So I saw the potential in the area that there is a need for units over there. There is a lot of housing in the area that were more expensive than what we sold them. So for a person, either, and it was all flats, by the way. So it's a 2-story, but all flats. So the first floors really was sold for a lot of elderly people. And most of my clients were women. They didn't want to deal with any of the maintenance of the apartments. So you have that aspect when a condominium. They didn't want to deal with insurances, with any grass cutting, with any cleaning of the hallways or the outside maintenance, the roof leaks and all that stuff. All they had to do is take care of the inside. And my units weren't that expensive, so it was a nice range of price range. It was a nice price range that was affordable and was still attractive to people to live in a nice area 10-15 minutes from New Orleans and not live in the city and be in the city within 10-15 minutes. You know, you have all the grocery stores, you have Whole Foods down the street, you have Starbucks down the street, you have all of that next to you, which, by the way, that's one of the things that you probably want to look at a location to see if they have a good location. Look if there's a Starbucks or Whole Foods or Kroger's or whatever, the Treasure Joe's, I don't know what they have in California. But if you have one of those, they usually did your research. You know, they know what's going on in that area. And when I sold them, I started selling them fairly quickly. So I say, you know what? I paid all my mortgages. I also made money. I can keep 4 of them right now for a monthly income. So I don't have any expenses. It's free and clear. So I'll keep it. And that's what I did.
You didn't see that coming?
So that's basically the process, you know? And again, you can sell the whole thing or you can keep some of it. It really depends.
And if
what
you
you
keep
want to
some
do.
of them, it may be that the ones that you keep you may be able to pay it off. And I think what you're saying is like, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say I bought an apartment complex at $156 a door because it's an apartment complex. But let's say that the condominiums for similar bedrooms and bathrooms are selling for $350 a door. Then at that point, there's a gap of what you paid for the apartment complex because it's one big apartment versus a $356 a door. There's a $200,000 gap per unit. My question to you is, like, on the 16 unit that you sold, are there any gain taxes on it? Like, meaning, like, if I buy like a house at 100 and I sell it at 200 and it's an investment property, there's a gain. But if, let's say I bought the entire apartment complex for $2 million and as I only sell enough units to get back 2 million and I keep the other ones, does that mean that because I only sold at 2 million that there is no gain? Or do you understand roughly what I'm
I
kind of saying?
understand your question. I'm not a tax consultant, so I'm not gonna. But I'm gonna tell you with my experience. That's not that I'm.
Okay, cool.
This is my
I love it.
experience. Yes, if you don't keep it for a year as an apartment, you will pay capital gain. I mean, you will pay regular income tax, not capital gain, regular income tax. But if you hold it for a year and then convert it to condos, you will pay your capital gain taxes on them versus paying regular income tax. So it all depends on your tax situation. Even though you sell them individually and you want to do it quickly, if you have other apartments or other properties that you get a depreciation from it,
Depreciation.
it all depends how your income tax look like on a yearly basis. So I can sell it within a year but pay nothing because I have a lot of depreciation from my other businesses and my other real estate. So everybody needs to consult the tax lawyer or the CPA to see what does they recommend for them to do. Versus maybe I should hold it for 1 year as an apartment complex. Now, if I hold it for 1 year, if I convert it afterwards, you can pay only capital gains afterwards because you had it for 1 year only. You had it for 1 year or more, basically.
Well, I guess the part, and this may be more of a tax question, is like, okay, let's say I bought at 156 a door, but then I sold it at 350 a door.
You're going to pay
$200,000.
Yeah, you're going to pay for the $200,000 different, even though you sold 2 million and you bought it for 2 million. You're going to
Okay, so it's almost based a per door, basically a gain per door as to what you bought it for to what you're selling it for. Okay, that was my question, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yes, so you're going to pay capital gain on that or regular income tax on that if you sell it within the year because you didn't hold it for over a year.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, good. Now, what about the process like when in California, I don't know if this is the same for Louisiana, but whenever you set up condominiums, there has to be an HOA set up. Is that the same in Louisiana? And what's the process to set up the HOA? Is that what the closing attorney does? And in California, there's something called CC&Rs, which basically is the rules and the regulations for the apartment complex or for the condominiums, meaning what are the rules for the complex? What can you do? What can't you do? Who takes care of this? Who takes care of that? Is that the same thing in Louisiana? And what is that? And who takes care of that? And what does that process look like?
So yes, it's going to be the same thing. So when you do the condo docs, that's basically preparing you for the homeowner association. That's their documentations, basically.
Perfect.
So when you sell the units, you need to transfer the association to the owners, to the new owners. What I find a lot of time is that they don't want to deal with it. So I have a management company basically that deal with that, and they the one who take care of the homeowner association. So once I'm managing that, I also collect fees to manage the associations. So for example, I have my own grass cutting guys, I have my own maintenance guys. My insurances are cheaper usually than if they're going to go and get it by themselves because I have a lot of properties that we have packages, so they give me a better rate. So there's a lot of benefits for, in my case, for example, to manage those associations versus them taking over. I had a property in the French Quarter, I just did a TikTok movie on that as well, that they actually wanted to take it. So they took it, so they're managing it. So they're going to decide who's going to be the homeowner association chairman, and they're going to have obviously they're going to have it's going to be like a board. Who's going to be the head of the board? Who's going to be the secretary? They're going to have meetings once a year. They're going to have minutes. Obviously, you need to give them reports of where the money goes, what's their expensive. Do we need to have any assessments? Does the condo fees needs to go up? Are they staying the same? All of that's going to be in the meetings that they making on a yearly basis, and that's how basically they run the association.
Everything sounds all nice and dandy. Everything sounds like super like easy.
Yeah.
What about the issues? Like what issues have you seen that come up in these types of conversions, or what mistakes maybe have you seen other investors, or even what lessons have you learned along the way from doing these types of conversions?
So for example, with my experience, let's say I had 4 buildings that I did, and each unit had 5 units, total 20 units. They had separate lots on each building, but when we did the conversion, my attorney converted the whole thing, and I want to do it in 2 phases. I wanted to do phase 1 and phase 2. And they made a mistake to record everything in one time. So all of a sudden, I have 20 tax bills. Even though I'm still keeping 10 of them as an apartment, I'm paying higher taxes because once you sold the units, let's say if you bought it at 50 and you sold it for 100, you start paying taxes on $100,000 because the city say, okay, look, this is what it sells in the building over here. This is what you're going to start paying. So my tax bill went up, doubled up, for example, you know? So you need to be very aware of how is everything set up or not. You need to make sure that if you do 2 phases, you do the phase 1 first, and then you do the option to do the phase 2. If I want to do phase 2, I will, but if not, I'm not. It's staying as an apartment. I don't want him to record it as 20 units. I want to record it as 10 units conversion. The other 10 will be just the apartments that I bought and stay like this. If I decide that I want to convert it, I'll convert it. It's also affecting the mortgages. When people buying those units, in the beginning, they're not going to be able to get a warranted mortgage on it because the developer owns more than 50% of it. So they're going to have to go conventional. So sometimes you have a lot of people that are first-time home buyers, and there's a lot of programs that not going to qualify for something like that. But if you sell, let's say 60% all of a sudden you become a warranted condominium, and then you can get all the financing on that building, on that particular building. So this is stuff that you need to look, and this comes with experience, really. I mean, it's something that you're going to learn along the way. But look, you got hurricanes in Louisiana. Over there in California, you got earthquakes, you know. So all of a sudden, you got hurricanes in Katrina over here. I had a guy that bought a unit because the day before the hurricane came, and his unit flooded the next day. He just moved in, you know. So you need to deal with insurances. You need to deal with claims right now. You need to deal with repairs, you know. With the pandemic, a lot of people don't come to work now. So you have issues with employees, you have issues with workers. It's a problem sometimes. So like they say, everybody wants to be a CEO of a company. Everybody wants to be an owner, but you have to work hard for what you have. There is no easy way. There's no easy way to make money. Let's put it that way. And I haven't seen anybody get really rich quickly from those kind of developments. You can, but it takes time. It takes time, and it takes a lot of patience.
You know what I love about this? It's just a different way to skin a cat, basically. Meaning, like, you're able to sometimes, by thinking differently, see value where other people may not see value. So other people may look at an apartment complex and be like, oh, that's too expensive price per door. But if you realize that it's in an area where you can do the tenants in common and the condominiums are selling for more, that's just like an additional way of finding potentially a deal where somebody else doesn't see the deal. Here's one other question that I had for you. You said that something about a developers not paying HOA off camera. Can you tell me a little bit about that, or what does that actually mean?
So as a developer, in every condo development that I do, I put over there that until I sell all my units, I am not paying HOA fees. I will actually share for example, if you have $10,000 in insurance and they pay you $300 a month fee, and your part, let's say, will be another $500 a year to pay for the insurance, I'll pay the $500 fee of my part, but I'm not going to pay $300 per unit until I sell all of my units. So I'm not going to pay any HOA fees. I'm going to pay my share of expenses, but it's not going to be as expensive as paying a monthly fee as an HOA owner. And I do it in every development that I do with condominiums. Now, if you don't do it, you have to talk to your lawyer and see what's the ramification going to be. But I put it in every condo docs that I do.
So it basically makes your monthly HOA fees a lot lower than they normally would if you had a traditional, which means more profit from an investment. So that would be important if you're going to be keeping some of them. Now, when you say that you don't pay them until you sell, does that mean at some point you eventually pay a higher fee, or is it just a reduced amount during the entire time? And then once you sell, the new owner starts paying the traditional HOA fee.
Exactly. So I don't pay any fees. And when the new buyer buy the units from me, they start paying those fees.
Okay. And then here's the last thing that I had for you. Like, let's say that you own 4 of the 16 units. That's maybe like 4 out of the 16, maybe like 25% of the units. Are there any benefits in terms of like decisions as to keeping, like, 51% of the units. That way you like maintain control of the management. Or is there anything that you can do? Because here's one of the things that I've seen with condominiums and owning in condominiums, that if the HOA is not managed correctly, meaning like in an HOA where I own, they wanted to put a palm tree for $15,000. I'm like, why would you put a palm tree for $15,000? You know, and sometimes the people managing the HOA aren't as sophisticated financially as somebody like me or you. Is there anything that you do that protects you to make sure that the right management is in place, or that people are making wise financial decisions on the HOA management board or anything like that?
So exactly. So if you own obviously more units in the condominiums, you have more voting rights. When you have more voting rights, you can make the decision goes in the way that you think needs to happen. Like you said, a lot of people don't have the experience of managing properties, and that's why most of them don't want to deal with the associations. They don't want to deal with the management of associations. They let other people do it that have experience. So yes, in one way, it's going to be benefit for you to own units that you're going to have a lot of voting rights and you can manage what your property. But in the other way, if you just want to flip it and don't want to own anything, sell the whole thing and just give it to them back. You know, give their homeowner association to them for them to manage, and you don't have anything to do with it anymore.
I love this. This has been one of my favorite interviews, Ro. And the reason it has is just because it's something that I've been wanting to learn about, but I never really knew any of the details. Any last piece of advice that maybe you would give to somebody looking to maybe convert an apartment complex into condominium units? And then where could people find you if maybe they wanted to connect with you on your TikTok, on your Instagram? Because I know that you're sharing a lot of good information.
Yes. So I got a website. It's called rodahan.com. We have a lot of free PDFs that we give over there. I'm also start building some courses because I got a lot of emails and interest from TikTok. Believe it or not, I just started about a month ago. All of a sudden, it's just this video went viral. I don't know why even. I just did it because, you know, I just did it. I didn't even thought it's going to go viral like that. So definitely go on my Instagram and TikTok. It's at Ro Dahan, and my website rodahan.com. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to advise people. I'll be more happy to share my stories and give them my experiences of how to do condo conversions. Again, it's good in certain locations. It's good in certain times. Not every apartment complex will be a good condo conversion. So just because you own an apartment complex doesn't mean that it's going to be a good conversion. So you need to know what you're doing.
I love it, man. All right. Well, this was another episode of the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. Today we had Ro Dahan. He talked to us on how to convert an apartment complex into condominiums. This is in Louisiana, but I imagine the principles are very similar in different parts. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you feel that this episode would add any sort of value to anybody, make sure to hit that share button and send it to a friend. Thank you so much, Ro. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing your growth on TikTok and Instagram and staying in contact with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.